our guest tonight, a lot of hardcore independent wrestling fans know who she is. She's competed across independent wrestling across Canada and the United States. Please welcome Jules Malone. How you doing tonight, Jules?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good, thanks. Hey, what's up, guys?
Let's get right to it. How did you get your career started, and how was training, and how did all that go for you?
I started my career back probably in 2011, I think, or 2010. And I went to training at Square Circle Training in Toronto. I trained there for about a year and a half of going like 3 days a week.
And who did you train under while you were training 3 days a week?
I was training under Rob Fuego and Jordan Marquez.
And how was that for you? What's some valuable things that they taught you and the tools that they gave you to become not just a wrestler, but the great wrestler you are right now, making a name for yourself by the day?
I learned a lot from Short Circle. They taught me the basics, they taught me how to do my roles, how to take bumps properly, how to take all different moves, like from submissions to like different types of drills, different holds, and you name it. It's a really great school. Like there's a lot of great people that came from Squared Circle.
So after you finished your training and when they decided that you were ready to finally wrestle, where did you debut for? And tell us how your first few matches went. My first match was actually done by surprise. It was on the spot. I was actually just replacing another competitor, but it was me versus Felicia Sparks, and it was in Toronto. I was just there to help set up the ring, and then they asked me, they're like, oh, hey, Jules, why don't you just go grab a pair of tights? I'm like, oh, and wrestle Felicia today. I'm like, okay, seriously? They're like, yep. I'm like, okay. Let's go for it. So I had to go borrow Sebastian Slav's tights, and then I really wasn't like prepared to like wrestle, but I did. So I actually ended up doing my first wrestling match in Sebastian Slav's tights, and I was wearing my flats, and then a tank top, and I wrestled Felicia Sparks. If you can look back, after that match, do you kind of remember what the feedback that you were getting after that match, how that match went, and how did you think that first match went for you? Do you think that was a big step in the right direction? It
felt really good. Like, I remember being so nervous doing my first match. I was just, like, afterwards, people were like, see, I told you, because I was training for about a year and a half anyways. And we did a lot of matches anyway, so, I knew I was ready. So it was, the perfect timing, And so after that, I started getting, a lot of bookings after that.
So if you're an aspiring wrestler, what's the most important thing, besides putting on good matches and being respectful and all that? Is there any tricks for aspiring wrestlers to get good bookings, or is it just the luck of the draw and having good matches?
I don't think there's any tricks, really. It's up to you to promote your own self. To anyone that's starting out, you just go to every single show that you can get to. You can network. You meet everybody. You can offer to take down the ring, get your name out there, know the wrestlers, meet the promoters, the bookers, and make sure you're trained and make sure that you're present. And they'll start to notice you, and they'll see your effort, and they'll see your dedication, and then it'll catch on, and you'll start to get bookings.
Rob, do you have any questions for Jules?
No, I did read from your history that you held on to a women's title for 405 days. That's a really, really long title reign. What was that experience like holding a belt that long? And what were some of the things that you learned during that reign? Was it hard to have that belt and hold it that long and kind of be relied upon in that way?
Yeah, it definitely put a lot of responsibility on me because as a champion, you're representing that company as a female, and you're supposed to be the strong role model. So yeah, it made it very tough for me, but I did keep it for a good year. I defended it. I think I defended the PWA title probably about 5 or 6 times before I lost it.
There's a lot of mystery surrounding the independents and how champions are treated, what the expectations are. So for a female wrestler who's holding a belt, what kind of expectations were laid at your feet?
You're expected to be a champion. You got to be strong. You got to be smart. You got to be doing all the right things,
you got to kind of like show up early, leave late, stuff like that?
Yep, you're just like everybody else. You have to be just like everybody else. That's the thing. Like, even though you're a champ, you still have to do everything else that you guide the people that are less experienced than you too. Also,
you had a few matches in Combat Zone Wrestling. Tell us how that went.
Oh, I worked for WSU. That's a female promotion for CZW. Yeah, I worked there probably about 5 or 6 times over the past 2 years. And I had a lot of really great matches. I started off with the Uncensored Rumble, so that was very entertaining. I also had a chance to face Barbie Hayden. Now, that was before she was the NWA Women's Champion. And then I had a competition with Mickey Knuckles. That was also one of my favorite matches, by the way. I did King and Queen for me and Danny Havoc. We wrestled against Mickey Knuckles and Matt Tremont. I also wrestled in a 6-man tag. It was me, Santana Garrett, and Xander Bale versus Jody DeMilo, Jessie K, and Barbie Hayden. And so I also worked at Nevaeh, and then I also had a singles match with Jessie K. So yeah, I did a lot of matches with them. And it's a really great experience when I go down there, because there's so much more talent that I get to meet in the U.S. because, like, there's just so many people coming from, like, different parts of the country, and they all come to, like, one place. And it's so interesting just to see, like, the different types of matches there. And so it's a really great experience working with them.
That's always a cool thing, too, is when you're on a show and you're not just the only out-of-town person booked on the show, you have more out-of-town people. That's how you develop even more connections and make more friends, and you have better matches. That's always a good thing about getting booked, like, outside of your hometown, is because you're never going to know what you're going to expect. So that's always a good thing as well.
Oh, exactly.
And now, sidetracking and going forward, on January 31st, you competed for Primo's Wrestling. How did you get the call?
Yeah, honestly, I just went onto my computer one day, and then I got a message from Graham and saying, hey, would you like to work Barbie Hayden for the NWA Women's title? I was like, hell yeah. On Canadian soil, for sure. I was definitely going to take that title away from her.
For sure. And that show on the 31st was a great show. Beyond Impact was a show to be remembered. AJ Styles collide. They had that big 4-way match.
Yeah.
And it was a fantastic match and a great show indeed put on by Primo's Wrestling. And just tell us, do you continue to stay with Primo's Wrestling and all their upcoming shows and all that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, of course. Like, trust me, I was looking forward to facing this Leah Von Dutch tomorrow. So, that's not the last you're going to be seeing of us.
Awesome stuff. Rob, I think we covered everything and it was great having you on the show.
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay, thanks. You too, guys.
All right, have a good night, Jules.
Bye.
Bye. That was Jules Malone here on Thursday Night AMP. Rob, what do you want to talk about on the show? I feel like ranting personally, but what do you want to do?
Oh, that's your call. It's your show, man. Tonight, I'm just happy to be on AMP. Been a long time listener, going all the way back to like when basically this was the only show on the air. We didn't even have a lineup yet. San Antonio and a couple other shows were on, but like it was like maybe 3 podcasts at the time when I used to listen to Angry Marks. And it was like Stevie J and Big D, and they getting big arguments, and Killer Kev would come in every once in a while, try to calm tempers down. So, I mean, I'm just happy to be on in my opinion, the flagship of Angry Marks.
Here's the thing. I have never gotten the opportunity to be in charge tonight, so I want to talk about what did you think about WrestleMania 31? But just briefly, let's talk about how WrestleMania 31 went. What did you think about the show?
Top 10 Mania of all time?
Top 10 Mania of all time. Where do you want to rank that on your top 10 list?
I don't know, but it's somewhere in there. It was a really, really solid show. The main event I thought was the best match in the night, which is, an ideal situation. And the rest of the show, it wasn't anything that was catastrophically bad. I'll be
honest with you, I thought this show was amazing. I just thought the show was great. I just thought it was a huge success. It wasn't one of those other predictable wrestling shows. I thought it was something I really, really enjoyed. I thought definitely a top 10 Mania. I thought the show was great. I just loved it.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, that was my feeling. So I liked it. The feeling coming out of Mania was a lot higher than I feel like the Mania really deserves. I felt like people were kind of on a high after Mania. To be honest, like to properly grade a Mania, I think you have to be kind of like a year out to really get like a good feel of like where the Mania actually is in regards to other Manias. But you know, that was my feelings on it. To be honest, I really enjoyed it.
News in Canada. I've heard this news. This is big news. TNA Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, is now on the Fight Network. So now all Canadians that have the Fight Network can watch Impact Wrestling as they got their new network. So that's a good thing. I don't know if you heard about that, but what do you kind of think right now about Impact Wrestling and the direction it's going in? My personal preference is that it's not what it used to be, right? Like I watch the program and it's just not what it used to be, in my opinion. What do you think about it?
The booking's better. The wrestling is more consistent. The storylines aren't as goofy. Unfortunately, it's harder to find on TV. So, not sure, like, what we're supposed to really feel about it. Like, in my opinion, it's more than ever, it's clear that it's more on the level of a Ring of Honor, like a super indie, than it is a WCW, which is what I think the original goal starting out was going to be.
Yeah, exactly. If you guys have feedback, you guys can send feedback to Twitter at AngryMarks, at Jordan J. Garber, at your Twitter, at Rob the Mini. I always enjoy hearing feedback from the fans. I know this show, this isn't a regular Thursday AMP. We didn't have much packed for this show. But like I said, the following weeks, it's going to be really action-packed. We've just got a lot going on lately on all of our plates. So
I could always provide the fireworks. That's kind of my gimmick, right?
You can do whatever you want. You can add drama.
Well, great. Care. I'm glad you said that.
I can add fireworks. I think if I added fireworks, I would have. I don't know. I'm not afraid to add any controversy. Jordan Garber has a history once in a while of adding controversy to things. But
well, let's get this Angry Marks up. Angry Marks podcast. Here we go. So, all right.
I don't want to be a random guy that has just freaks out of nowhere like some guys on a Tourette's tantrum. I want to have a reason to be angry, and a lot of situations have happened lately, and I'll kind of cover a few of them. Is that, and I'm not saying in particular for the wrestling show that I was supposed to be appearing for or got canceled. I'm saying in general how it affects when a wrestling show's canceled. Who do you think it affects? Who do you think it affects the most, Rob? Can you have a guess of who it affects the most?
The fans.
Yes, the fans. Most definitely the fans. Of course, the wrestlers. Of course, the big names coming in that are getting paid big bucks. But the people that it hurts are people like me, right? The people like me, and I'll explain why to you. Is because I was given an opportunity. I'm in a stage right now where, yes, Rob, for example, you're involved in the business. You're doing wrestling podcasts. That counts. That's a wrestling show. But with a promotion, and they're offering me I'm doing something for them to prove myself. And how can you prove yourself, and this goes for any promotion, how can you prove yourself if the show keeps getting canceled all the time, and there's no one else looking at you because you don't have much experience or a proving ground to prove yourself? You kind of know what I mean?
I've been a part of a few federations in my time, and one of the times they were supposed to bring in Kevin Nash, and at the last minute, Kevin Nash canceled, right? So that was a bummer, but they did their best. They found but then what happened was the Doctor canceled on him, right? So guess what happened to that show? That show's done, over, right? So, okay, they recouped, they gave the fans their money back and they apologized. They did what they could, they tried to save face. But then it happened again, Jordan. The Doctor, between, that event and the second event, the normal Doctor that they would have passed away, unfortunately. And so they were scrambling to find a doctor, and they never did find a doctor. And that was the last of that federation. So, I mean, things like that just kind of happen in wrestling business. It's one of the more fly-by-night businesses you'll ever run into.
Yeah, exactly. It's just one of those unfortunate situations. And it's just, I just want to prove myself to the world, and I'm glad that Angry Marks has given me that opportunity. Not that tonight would show for that, but in general, right? People need a chance.
So, can we do Rob's Rant of the Week?
We can do Rob's Rant of the Week, and then while you do Rob's Rant of the Week, I will think of a rant, and I'll go on Jordan's Rant of the Week.
Okay, great. Thank you, Jordan. All right. So, I have a few things to get off my chest this week. I try not to go on rants, but every once in a while, something comes along, it just pisses me off. The current thing that absolutely has me furious beyond belief is Chris Jericho right now. It's just quickly becoming one of the most annoying people in my life right now. I used to be massive, super big mark for Jericho, and the past few weeks, he's just been pissing me off just a little bit more every time he speaks. Every time he tweets something. And sure enough, this podcast, when it's finally confirmed that basically he's getting all of Austin's spots, he's getting the Tough Enough spot, he's getting the podcast spot, and et cetera, he's still insistent that he is not selling out, and people don't know what they're talking about, and blah, 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 blah. And it's just like, and he's getting more and more defiant with his attitude, and it's just driving me absolutely bonkers. And I can't believe it's brought me to this point, but like I can't believe I went from loving like a performer and hating a person so quickly because this guy's such an asshat and is like so dismissive of like people and like how they feel. It's just I just don't understand like how somebody could be that oblivious to like reality and the truth. Like it's just mind-boggling, but that's kind of the way the world works.
That is the way the world works, and it's crazy, the world is crazy.
But part two of that rant is Taz. Taz is really pissing me off too, because this motherfucker, this fat fuck, this lazy piece of shit, has the balls to call Byron out for choking on Raw last week and doing a crappy job this week. Meanwhile, he's over there in TNA barely doing his job, getting fat and doing awful commentary and getting called out by all the experts all the time for the random shit he does that is disrespectful to wrestlers. And he has the balls to call anybody else out is beyond me.
I think Taz is one of the greatest commentators in wrestling history. I'm going to say that with a confident thing. Taz has always been entertaining, not even when he's on his game.
I disagree. Taz is a fat fuck and he needs to shut up.
He's earned the right, though, because I love Taz.
What did he ever do? What did he ever do for the business? He won the ECW title, basically a local promotion, and didn't do jack shit in WWE.
But it's not always about WWE, right? If it was just WWE, I wouldn't be wasting my time trying to get my name out there with other independent promotions like Primo's Wrestling, who bust their butts to put on a great quality entertainment for the fans. I love being a part of that company, and if everyone was just into WWE and not independent wrestling, then I would be out of a job. I would continue working at the place I work, which is nothing wrong with that, but I wouldn't have a wrestling job. But
yeah, well, it gets on my nerves because this guy, his whole gimmick is I tell the truth, I speak the truth, and I'm going to give my opinion, and blah, 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 blah. And then, he lives in a world full of cognitive dissonance. They did like a top 10, like when the show first started, of like current wrestlers. And I'll give you a guess of how many TNA guys made Taz's list. Like 7. There's basically like 3 WWE guys and like 7 TNA guys. Listen, Taz, I mean, there may be fans of TNA out there, but there's seemingly not a whole lot, unless they happen to live in the UK. So I'm just going to tell you this. None of TNA's roster is anywhere near as over as even Kofi Kingston or Heath Slater. Heath Slater's a bigger star than anybody in TNA. And for anybody to make that list is ridiculous. Well, at the time, Angle wasn't officially wrestling again. He was quote unquote retired yet again.
Oh yeah, true.
So, I mean, it was just maddening, and like he does a lot of that, like where he'll be very pro TNA, and he will nitpick and complain and bitch and moan about everything WWE, and then he tries to say that he's coming from an unbiased viewpoint, and it's just like, dude, I get it. You work for the company. There's you get to know the people. You kind of feel like a connection with them, so you're gonna kind of start to lose your bias, whether you want to or not. And that's understandable, but just be upfront about it. Be like, hey, dude, I work for this company, and I want to try to be as unbiased as possible, but I'm human. It's going to slip out. But that's not what he does. He tries to get on his high horse and run off at the mouth and just do whatever he wants. And then on top of it, he gets his live show where he has 5 podcasts in 1 week, all live, and just absolutely floods the market. And it's just like, it's not that good, but at the same time, like, I guess he's doing something right, because I listen to the podcast every time, and every time he pisses me off, yet I always listen to it. So I don't know if that's what he's going for, but I mean, he drives me absolutely nuts. Almost as nuts as JR and his podcast drives me, but like, I would say.
Whoa, so you're saying that JR's podcast is driving you nuts?
Well, yes, because, you know, JR does the annoying thing where he talks about, like, how people don't sell enough in today's current generation for, like, 20 minutes every podcast. And it's just really, really annoying.
It's funny because everyone could say they have all these legends on these podcasts saying all these things. Like, JR could go, oh, you can sell, but you know how you have to sell. Like, we can go on for hours and talk about selling or not selling. It's like, Jesus Christ, man. These people are going to give me a fucking headache. It's just wrestling, man. It's all it is. So
here's the thing I'll say about JR, and we can move past my rant. But when you listen to JR's podcast, you could totally get why he was fired so many times. Because this old geezer is so out of touch on how he views the wrestling world. You totally get it. You totally could get how somebody like Vince McMahon or like Triple H or Stephanie would be around this man for like 5 seconds and want to punch him in the face. He just has like this, ooh, why don't you turn the lights down? And why don't we go back to the territories? And why don't we do this? And why don't we do that? Every podcast, and even when he does do the interviews, something that I would assume JR could do well, because I've seen him do it well before, he does an awful job. He's boring. He's monotone. You're a better interviewer than he is. And
I don't know about
that. A lot of times he brings all the conversation back to himself, or he'll give his opinion on the answer. Like if somebody's talking about their work, he might like bring up the fact that like, oh, I agree, like people should like slow down selling and like, you know, turn the conversation back towards him. It drives me nuts.
Wow. Well, Rob the Mini, everyone, made his Angry Marks promo. Actually, no, you cut a lot of promos for us. So
yes, that's kind of my thing.
I was going to cut a promo, but I'm not entirely in the mood. I feel actually I'm in the mood to go to the gas station, buy myself a cheap cake. Like, I'm talking about cheap cake, sit in the basement and eat it all by myself. That's the mood I'm in right now. I'm in the mood to eat ice cream and cake. Or maybe visit work and buy a milkshake.
Hey, you should watch the 13 Going on 30 too while you're at it.
13 Going on 30. What's that movie about? Is that when the 13-year-old dates the 30? What's going on?
No, it's basically Big, but with like a chick.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I was just trying to think of the most girlish thing off the top of my head, and for whatever reason, I went there. I'm sure there's more girly movies. What's a girlier movie? Fine, My Little Ponies.
White chicks.
Sure, why not?
Or Rachel McAdams is in that movie. Like, she's hot.
Yeah, you could totally watch The Notebook and cry.
I remember Mary Kate and Ashley. That's a girly movie or girly show.
Yeah, man. I totally get why you're.
It was a good movie. I'm just kidding. They're not sluts, but it was a good show. Pretty much, I think we discussed everything. This series in the AMP, and I thought it was a good show. Plugs, Rob, if you have any plugs, go ahead.
Plugs, you can always follow me on Twitter. You can also add me on Facebook if you really want, like, me to just go ahead and flip out about something random every once in a while. I go on my Facebook rants too every once in a while. If you lean right, you're probably gonna not want to follow me because I lean slightly to the left. So just fair warning for everybody out there.
For sure, well. And of course, you guys can follow me on Twitter at Jordan J. Garber. I'm on Snapchat as well, JordanZone17, in case I'm bored and I want people to Snapchat me. I'm just kidding around. Just add me on Snapchat. Most importantly, follow me on Twitter at Jordan J. Garber, like I just said. I'm on Facebook as well. Check out next week's edition of Thursday Night AMP only on AngryMarks.com. Of course, check out the SmackDown Rundown each week on AngryMarks.com as well. Coming soon will be the interview I have conducted, the 3-minute interview I've conducted with former WWE Tag Team Champion and World Tag Team Champion Rene Dupree. Check that out. That should be cool. That's going to come up soon. And, of course, just stay tuned to AngryMarks.com, and thanks for listening, and have a good night.